Today, I will be reading chapter 3 of Lean In. Not chapter 4, but chapter 3. Which is entitled Success and Likability. Okay, so all a woman has to do is ignore society's expectations, be ambitious, and sit at the table and work hard, and then it's smooth sailing all the way. What could possibly go wrong? In 2003, Columbia Business School professor Frank Flynn and New York University professor Cameron Anderson ran an experiment to test perceptions of men and women in the workplace. They started with a Harvard Business School case study about a real-life entrepreneur named Heidi Roizen. The case described how The case described how Roizen became a successful venture capitalist by using her outgoing personality and vast personal and professional network that included many of the most powerful business leaders in the technology sector. Flynn and Anderson assigned half of the students to read Heidi's story and gave the other half the same story with just one difference. They changed the name Heidi to Howard. Professors Flynn and Anderson then polled the students about their impressions of Heidi or Howard. The students rated Heidi and Howard as equally competent, which made sense since their accomplishments were completely identical. Yet, while students respected both Heidi and Howard, Howard came across as a more appealing colleague. Heidi, on the other hand, was seen as a selfish and not the type of person you would want to hire or work for. The same data, with a single difference, gender, created vastly different impressions. Secondly, this should have been done cross schools so that way the students wouldn't have any crosstalk between them. Their experiment supports what research has already clearly shown. Success and likability are positively correlated for men and negatively correlated for women. When a man is successful, he is liked by both men and women. When a woman is successful, both people of genders like her less. This truth is both shocking and unsurprising. Shocking because no one would ever admit to stereotyping on the bias of gender, and unsurprisingly because clearly we do. Decades of social science studies have confirmed what the Heidi Howard case study so blatantly demonstrates. We evaluate people based on stereotypes, gender, race, nationality, and age, among others. Our stereotype of men holds that they are providers, decisive, and driven. Our stereotype of women holds that they are caregivers, sensitive, and communal. Because we characterize men and women in opposition to each other. Professional achievement and all the traits associated with it get placed in the male column. By focusing on her career and taking a calculated approach to amassing power, Heidi violated our stereotypical expectations of women. Yet, by behaving in an exact manner, Howard lived up to our stereotypical expectations of men. The end result: liked him, disliked her. I believe this bias is at the very core of why women are held back. It is also at the very core of why women hold themselves back. For men, professional success comes with positive reinforcement at every step of the way. For women, even when they are recognized for their achievements, they are often regarded unfavorably. Journalist Shankar Vendanam once catalogued the derogatory descriptions of some of the first female world leaders. England's Margaret Thatcher, he wrote, was called Attila the Hen. Golda Meir, Israel's first female prime minister, was the only man in the cabinet. President Richard Nixon called Indira Gandhi India's first female prime minister, the old witch. And then Angela Merkel, the current chancellor of Germany, has been dubbed the Iron Frau. I've seen this dynamic play out over and over when a woman excels at her job. Both male and female co-workers will remark as she may be accomplishing a lot but is not as well liked by her peers. She is probably also too aggressive, not a team player, a bit political, can't be trusted, or difficult. At least those are all things that have been said about me and almost every senior woman I know. The world seems to be asking why we can't be less like Heidi and more like Howard. Most women have never heard of the Heidi Howard study. Most of us are never told about this downside of achievement. Still, we sense this punishment for success. We're aware that when a woman acts forcefully or competitively, she's deviating from expected behavior. If a woman pushes to get the job done, if she's highly competent, if she focuses on results rather than on pleasing others, she's acting like a man. And if she acts like a man, people dislike her. In response to this negative reaction, we temper our professional goals. Author Ken Auletta summarized this phenomenon in The New Yorker when he observed that for women, self-doubt becomes a form of self-defense. In order to protect ourselves from being disliked, we question our abilities and downplay our achievements. Especially in the presence of others, we put ourselves down before others can. During the summer between my first and second year in business school, I received a letter in the mail congratulating me on becoming a Henry Ford Scholar for having the highest first-year academic record. The check was for $714, an odd number that immediately signaled that several students had split the prize. When we returned to school for our second year, 6 men let it be known that they had won this award. I multiplied my check by 7 and it revealed a nearly round number. I'm gonna guess she says it, a nearly round number. Yeah, mystery solved. There were 7 of us, 6 men and me. Unlike the other 6 wieners, I didn't let my award status become general knowledge. I told only my closest friend, Stephen Paul, and knew he would keep my secret. On the surface, this decision might have worked against me, since grades at Harvard Business School are based 50% on class participation. Professors teach 90-minute classes and are not allowed to write anything down, so they have to rely on their memory of class discussion. When a student makes a commitment that others refer to, if I can build on what Tom said, that helps the professor remember the critical points and who made them. Just as in real life, performance is highly dependent upon the reaction people have to one another. The other 6 Ford Scholars quickly became the most quoted speakers as their academic standing gave them instant credibility. They also received early job offers from prestigious employees before the official recruiting period even began. One day in class, one of the exalted 6 made a comment that, to my mind, demonstrated that he had not even read the case being discussed. Everyone fawed all over him. I wondered if I was making a huge mistake not letting people know that I was the 7th student. It would have been nice to float through my second year of business school without even reading the material, but I never really considered going public. I instinctively knew that letting my academic performance become known was a bad idea. Years later, when I learned about the Heidi Howard case study, I understood the reason why. Being at the top of my class may have made my life easier for my male peers, but it would have made my life harder. I did not reach this conclusion in a vacuum. All through my life, culture-reinforced signals caution me against being rated as too smart or too successful. It starts young. As a girl, you know that being smart is good in lots of ways, but it doesn't make you particularly popular or attractive to the boys. Let's shed some light on that. Smart girls are wicked sexy. Smart women are wicked sexy. In school, I was called the smartest girl in the class. I hated that description. Who wants to go to the prom with the smartest girl in the class? People like me. People like me. Senior year, my class voted me most likely to succeed, along with a boy. I wasn't going to take any chances with the prom, so I convinced my friend who worked on the yearbook to remove my name. I got a prom date who was fun and loved sports. In fact, he loved sports so much that 2 days after the prom, he canceled on me to go to a basketball game, saying,
I know you'll understand since going to the playoffs is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
I did not point out that, as a high school girl, I thought going to the prom was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Luckily, I found a new date who was less of a sports fan. I never really thought about why I went to such efforts to mute my achievements from such a young age. Then, about 10 years after I graduated from business school, I was seated at a dinner next to Deborah Grunfeld, a professor of leadership and organizational behavior at Stanford, and our friendly small talk quickly turned into a tense discussion. Having studied this issue, Professor Grunfeld was able to explain the price women pay for success.
Our entrenched cultural ideas associate men with leadership qualities and women with nourishing qualities and put women in double bind,
She said,
We believe not only that women are nurturing, but they should be nurturing above all else. When a woman does anything that signals that she might not be the first and foremost, it creates a negative impression that makes us uncomfortable.
If a woman is competent, she does not seem nice enough. If a woman seems really nice, she is considered more nice than competent, since people want to hire and promote those who are both competent and nice. This creates a huge stumbling block for women. Acting in stereotypical feminine ways makes it difficult to reach for the same opportunities as men. But defying expectations and reaching for those opportunities leads to being judged as undeserving and selfish. Nothing has changed since high school. Intelligence and success are not clear paths to popularity at any age. This complicates everything because at the same time that women need to sit at the table and own their success, doing so causes them to be liked less. Most people, myself included, really want to be liked, and not just because it feels good. Being liked is also a key factor in both professional and personal success. A willingness to make an introduction or advocate for or promote someone depends upon having positive feelings about that person. We need to believe in her ability to do the job and get along with everyone while doing it. That's why, instinctively, many of us feel pressure to mute our accomplishments. In October 2011, Jacqueline Goldfield, one of the engineering directors at Facebook, isn't this the same as the professor? Yo, don't change it. Held a meeting with our female engineers where she encouraged them to share the progress they had made on the products they were building. Silence. No one wanted to toot their own horn. Who would want to speak up when self-promoting women are disliked? Jocelyn switched her approach. Instead of asking the women to talk about themselves, she asked them to tell each other's story. The exercise became communal, which put everyone at ease. Owning one's success is key to achieving more success. Professional advancement depend upon people believing that an employee is contributing to good results. Men can comfortably claim credit for what they do as long as they don't veer into arrogance. For women, taking credit comes as a real social and professional cost. In fact, a woman who explains why she is qualified or mentions previous success in job interviews can lower her chances of getting hired. As if this double bind were not enough to navigate gendered stereotypes, can also lead to women having to additionally work without additional reward. When a man helps a colleague, the recipient finds indebted to him and is highly likely to return the favor. But when a woman helps out, the feeling of indebtedness is weaker. She is communal, right? She wants to help others. Professor Flynn calls this the gender discount problem, and it means that women are paying a professional penalty for their presumed desire to be communal. On the other hand, when a man helps a coworker, it is considered an imposition, and he is compensated with more favorable performance evaluation and rewards like salary increases and bonuses. Even more frustrating, when a woman declines to help a colleague, she often receives less favorable reviews and fewer rewards. But a man who declines to help, he pays no penalty. Because of this unfair expectation, women find themselves in demand. Women find themselves damned if they do and doomed if they don't. Situations. This is especially true when it comes to negotiations concerning compensations, benefits, titles, and other perks. By large, men negotiate more than women. Okay, so over here, see it says by and large. It's supposed to say by large. That's an error right there. Reading the book as is read, not as I'm writing it. So, by large, men negotiate more than women. A study that looked at the starting salaries of students graduating with a master's degree from Carnegie Mellon University found that So a study from Carnegie Mellon University, of people who had a master's degree and they graduated, they found out that 50% of the male and 7% of the female students tried to negotiate for a higher offer than they got from their first job. Instead of blaming women for not negotiating more, we need to recognize that women often have good cause to be reluctant to advocate for their own interests because doing so can easily backfire. This is a little down step when men negotiate for themselves. People expect men to advocate on their own behalf, point out their contributions, and be recognized and rewarded for them. For men, there is truly no harm in asking, but since women are expected to be concerned with others, when they advocate for themselves or point to their own value, both men and women react unfavorably. Interestingly, women can negotiate as well as or even more successful than men when negotiating for others, such as the company or a colleague, because in this case, their advocacy does not make them appear self-serving. However, when a woman negotiates on her own behalf, she violates the perceived gender norm. Both male and female colleagues often resist working with a woman who has negotiated for a higher salary because she's seen as more demanding than a woman who refrained from negotiating. Even when a woman negotiates successfully for herself, she can pay a long-term cost in a goodwill and future advancement. Regrettably, all women are hiding. Try as we might, we can't just be all Howards. While I was negotiating with Facebook's founder and CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, for my compensation, he made me an offer that I thought was fair. We had been having dinner several nights a week for more than a month and a half, discussing Facebook's mission and his vision for the future. I was ready to accept the job. No, I was dying to accept the job. My husband, Dave, kept telling me to negotiate, but I was afraid of doing anything that might botch the deal. I could play hardball, but then maybe Mark would not want to work with me. Was it worth it when I knew that ultimately I was going to accept the offer? I concluded it was not. But right before I was about to say yes, my exasperated brother-in-law, Mark Bodnick, blurted out, "Damn it, Cheryl, we are going to make less than any man would make to do the same job." Damn it, Cheryl, why are you going to make less than any man would make to do the same job? My brother-in-law didn't know the details on my deal. His point was simple, that no man at my level would consider taking the first offer. This was motivation. I went back to Mark and said that I couldn't accept, but I prefaced it by telling him, "Of course you realize that you're hiring me to run your deal teams. So you want me to be a good negotiator. This is the only time you and I will ever be on the opposite sides of the table." Then I negotiated hard, followed by a nervous night wondering if I had blown it. But Mark called me the next day. He resolved the gap by improving my offer, extending the terms of my contract from 4 to 5 years, and allowing me to buy into the company as well. His creative solution not only closed the deal, but also set up as a long-term alignment of interest. The goal of a successful negotiation is to achieve our objectives and continue to have people like us. Professor Hannah Riley Bowles, who studied gender and negotiations at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, believes that women can increase their chances of achieving a desired outcome by doing two things in combination. First, women must come across as being nice, concerned about others, and appropriately female. When women take a more instrumental approach, "This is what I want and deserve," people react far more negatively. There is a saying, Think globally, act locally. When negotiating, think personally, act communal. I have advised many women to preface negotiations by explaining that they know that women often get paid less than men, so they are going to negotiate rather than accept the original offer. By doing so, women position themselves as connected to a group and not just out for themselves. In effect, they are negotiating for all women. And as silly as it sounds, pronouns matter. Whenever possible, women should substitute we for I. A woman's request will be better received if she asserts, "We had a great year," as opposed to, "I had a great year." But a communal approach is not enough. According to Professor Bowles, the second thing women must do is provide a legitimate explanation for the negotiation. Men don't have to legitimize their negotiations. They are expected to look out for themselves. Women, however, have to justify their requests. One way of doing this is to suggest that someone more senior encourage the negotiations. "My manager suggested I talk with you about my compensation." Or to cite industry standard.
My understanding is that jobs that involve this level of responsibility are compensated in this range.
Still, every negotiation is unique, so women must adjust their approach accordingly. Telling a current employer about an offer from another company is a common tactic, but works for men more easily than for women. Men are allowed to be more focused on their own achievements, while loyalty is expected from women. Also, just being nice is not a winning strategy. Nice sends a message that the woman is willing to sacrifice pay to be liked by others. This is why a woman needs to combine niceness with insistence. A style that Mary Sue Coleman, president of the University of Michigan, calls relentlessly pleasant. This method requires smiling frequently, expressing appreciation, So this method requires smiling frequently, expressing appreciation and concern, invoking common interest, emphasizing larger goals, and approaching the negotiation as solving a problem as opposed to taking a critical stance. Most negotiations involve drawn-out successful moves, so women need to stay focused and smile. Whew. No wonder women don't negotiate as much as men. It's like trying to cross a minefield backward in high heels. So what should we do? Should we play by the rules that others created? Should we figure out a way to put a friendly expression while not being too nice, displaying the right level of loyalty and using we language? I understand the paradox of advising women to change the world by adhering to biased rules and expectations. I know it is not a perfect answer, but a means to a desirable end. It is also true, as any good negotiator knows, that having a better understanding of the other side leads to a superior outcome. So at the very least, women can enter these negotiations with the knowledge that showing concern for the common good, even as they negotiate for themselves, will strengthen their position. In addition, there are huge benefits to communal effort in of itself. By definition, all organizations consist of people working together. Focusing on the team leads to better results for the simple reason that well-functioning groups are stronger than individuals. Teams that work together will outperform those that don't, and success feels better when it's shared with others. So perhaps one positive result in having more women on top is that our leaders will have been trained to care more about the well-being of others. My hope, of course, is that we won't have to play by the archaic rules forever, and that we can eventually just all be ourselves. Be you. We still have a long way to go. In November 2011. You know what happened in November 2011? I'm gonna tell you what happened in November 2011. It's right here in this book. November 2011, San Francisco Magazine ran a story on female entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, of all places. And it illustrated by superimposing the featured women's heads on the male bodies. It's just wrong. The only body type they could imagine for successful entrepreneurs was wearing a tie, or a hoodie. Our culture needs to find a robust image of female success that is first not male and second not a white woman on the phone holding a crying baby. In fact, these bad mothers with the briefcase images are so prevalent that writer Jessica Valentine collected them in a funny and poignant blog post called "Sad White Babies with Mean Feminist Mommies." Until we can get there, I fear that women will continue to sacrifice being liked for being successful. When I first arrived at Facebook, a local blog devoted some serious pixels to trashing me. They posted a picture of me and superimposed a gun in my hand. They wrote "liar" in big red letters across my face. Anonymous sources labeled me two-faced and about to ruin Facebook forever. I cried. I lost some sleep. I worried that my career was over. Man, they just hate us because they ain't us. Come on, pull yourself together, Sarah. Then I told myself it didn't matter, that everyone else told me it didn't matter, which only reminded me that they were reading these awful comments too. I fantasized about all sorts of rejoinders, but in the end, my best response was to ignore the attack and do my job. Arianna Huffington, founder of the Huffington Post. Really? Arianna Huffington, founder of the Huffington Post? Come on, man. Pull it together. Believes that learning to withstand criticism is a necessity for women. Early in her career, Arianna realized that the cost of speaking her mind was that she would inevitably offend someone. She does not believe it is realistic or even desirable to tell women not to care when we are attacked. Her advice is that we should not let ourselves react emotionally and feel whatever anger or sadness being criticized evokes for us. And then we should quickly move on. She points out to children as her role model. A child can cry one moment and run off to play the next. For me, this was such good advice. I wish I were strong enough to ignore what others say, but experience tells me that often I cannot. Allowing myself to feel upset, even really upset, and then move on, that is something I can do. It also helps to lean on one another. We can comfort ourselves with the knowledge that the attacks are not personal. We can joke, as Marlo Thomas did, that a man has to be Joe McCarthy in order to be called ruthless. All a woman needs to do is to put you on hold. Real change will come when powerful women are less of an exception. It is easy to dislike senior women because there are so few. If women held 50% of the top jobs, it would not be possible to dislike that many people. Sharon Mears, who motivated me to write Getting to 50-50, after observing this kind of tipping point firsthand. In the late 1990s, Amy Goldfield was chosen to lead Goldman Sachs' U.S. derivatives team and later became the first female partner in the equities division. It was a seismic event and caused 4 senior men to quit the group. Amy faced a lot of skepticism and criticism. Before Sharon joined the team, a male friend told her,
"Amy's a bitch, but an honest bitch."
Sharon found that Amy was a great boss, and over the next few years, the derivatives group was transformed under her leadership. Once there were more than 5 female managing directors in the division, a critical mass, the negativity and grumbling began to die down. It became normal to have female leaders, and by 2000, the stigma seemed to have dissipated. Sadly, when those senior women later left and the critical mass shrank, the faith that women could be as successful as their male peers shrank with it. Everyone needs to get more comfortable with female leaderships, including female leaders amongst themselves. Since 1999, Editor Patty Sellers of Fortune's magazine has overseen an annual conference that she calls the Most Powerful Women Summit. On my first night there in 2005, I was in the lounge with two close friends, Deanna Farrell, then head of the McKinsey Global Institute, and Sue Decker, the CEO of Yahoo! We were talking about the name of the conference, as I mentioned that when I saw the title on Google's Corpus calendar, I ran to find Camille to ask her to change her name to Fortune Women's Conference. Deanna and Sue laughed and said that they had to do the exact same thing. They have done the exact same thing. Later, Patty and everybody explained that she and her colleagues chose this name on purpose to force women to contribute their own power and feel more comfortable with that word. I still struggle with this. I'm fine applying the word powerful to other women. The more the better, but I still shake my head in denial when it is applied to me. The nagging voice in the back of my mind reminds me. The nagging voice, as it did in business school, do not flaunt your success or even let people know about your success. If you do flaunt your success, they will not like you. Later, less than 6 months after I started at Facebook, Mark and I sat down for my first formal review. One of the things he told me was that my desire to be liked by everyone would hold me back. He said that when you want to change things, you can't please everyone. If you do please everyone, you aren't making enough progress. And Mark was right. That's chapter 3. Now, our good friend George Carlin did finish one of his stand-up routines saying that I do not give a damn about what your opinion is, and I will shoot you in the face with it. George Carlin explained that anybody that has an opinion that completely disagrees with you, take a brick and smash it over their head, and then keep on with your daily life. And if someone disagrees with what I have to say, they have every single right to shoot me in the head, run me over with the train, or whatever they want to do. My opinion is mine. Hurt me, kill me, maim me, tame me. You will never tame me.
Eres muy feo, ¿no?